All right, let's jump in. So, quick agenda for y'all today. First, I want to get into a bit of discussion with you guys and just talk a little bit about what's hard about prospecting so that through the course of this masterclass, we can make sure that we get to the different pieces that you are struggling with. So, benefit of showing up live is you get to have your problems solved and answered right here on the call. I also want to walk you guys through what is a pipeline and my process for building and filling a pipeline with qualified leads. Then I'm going to bring you through line by line exactly what to say to connect with and invite a potential client into a sales call. So if you are sick of marketing, if you are just looking for a way to connect with people and invite them in to work with you, we're going to work through that line by line exactly what to say. Now, this is not a teaser webinar where I'm going to tell you what you need, but then tell you that you have to buy my course to find out how to do it, okay? Instead, you're going to get specific scripts that you need in order to build and fill a pipeline. But at the end of the call, I will, with your permission, include a special offer, a special free offer for those of you who want to explore what it looks like for us to work together further. And if at that time you have what you need and you just want to peace out, you're like, that was exactly what I needed, I'm good to go, then that's totally cool. And if you want to stay and you want to hear more and explore what next steps look like, then that's totally cool too. Good with everyone? Awesome. Awesome. So here's what I want you to do. I want you all to think about what makes prospecting difficult for you right now. And I'm going to get into a very brief intro about myself while you think about that. And while I do, I want you to pop on into the chat. So if you don't know where the chat is, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, if you hover over your mouse, there is a little chat button there and it'll open up a chat window. So just pop into the chat, what is hard for you about prospecting? And also, what is it that you sell? Just so that I know, I recognize a lot of you guys. So, but let me know what you sell and what is hard about prospecting right inside the chat. And while you guys are doing that, while you're typing away, you might be wondering who I am and why I'm qualified to talk to you about creating selling systems in your business. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Prestansky. I've been in sales for 15 years, and I have been training people to sell and achieve crazy high close rates with so much love since I was about 21 years old. So that's 13 years experience in teaching people how to sell. So I've sold to huge companies like Walmart, 3M, Allstate Insurance, and I've also sold to many, many small businesses and people just starting out. Okay, I've sold marketing through my agency. I've sold financial services. I've sold mortgages. I've sold funky $25 leggings. And I've also sold $75,000 coaching packages. So you name it. And get this, I'm not even a glamour puss. I'm not even an Instagram model, if you can believe it. I'm just a gal who grew up in a small farm town with zero connections. So I won't go anywhere that I can't wear leggings. My sister and my mama are on the call there, and they will attest to the fact that I will not go anywhere that I cannot wear leggings. And I drive a practical car. I couldn't hit a golf ball if I tried. So I know that you do not need to be a stereotypical salesperson to be successful, okay? You just have to have a lot of love and respect for your prospects and a really good selling system, which includes a system for prospecting. So that's what we're gonna go over here today. So I see some of you guys popping into the chat there. For those of you who didn't, just let me know what's hard about prospecting and what you sell so that I can make sure that the information is kind of tailored to those of you who showed up here today. What you guys might not know is that my business was recently hacked by someone in China who stole my email list. They blocked me out of my social media business accounts, and they got my advertising accounts shut down by using my account to advertise their scammy products. So I lost my 73,000 person email list overnight, the following that I had built for 3 years online, and over 60,000 people in my warm custom audiences that I had paid for over the past 3 years to build. So it was completely devastating. It was like losing my firstborn. all of my online presence was swept away before my eyes, and there was nothing that I could do. So had I followed the advice of all the internet gurus out there who tell you that the money is in your list, I'd be looking for a job today. But instead, we had one of our best months ever this month in May, which the hack just happened last month in April. So we're not even done yet, because I had built my business on what I knew: prospecting and building pipelines, not on what some internet guru told me. Okay, so what I'm going to teach you here today is not going to make you $1 million overnight. It is not going to grow your following by 10,000 people overnight. It's not going to allow you to bring in passive income while sitting on the beach and not working, but it will teach you how the pros find people who might be interested in what you do, so that you do not have to rely on a platform. You do not have to rely on an algorithm or an email list that could disappear overnight. You only have to rely on yourself and your abilities. And I know for me, I'll bet on myself any day. We're also going to give you skill building exercises so that you can uncover whether someone is a fit for you when you meet with them without feeling really salesy and awkward. You know, when you meet with somebody and you're like, I know they'd be a good fit, but should I really transfer that conversation into that feels really weird? And we're also going to help you build a script for exactly what to say to invite them into a sales conversation where you're going to have an opportunity to close them into what you sell on the first call, even if what you sell costs upward of $25,000. So for some of you, I see kind of getting into the chat here. I'm just going to pop back in here. Thank you guys for popping that in. So Helen says, not sure where new places to look for new prospects would be. Awesome. We're definitely going to cover that. Laura said she's selling real estate and keeping a consistent flow of clients through seasonal dips. So yes, we'll definitely talk about how we can constantly connect with people and how we can bring them in to have those selling conversations with them. So Helene works with multi-passionate coaches and consultants to focus on and profit from their one thing. Awesome. I'm so excited. Carrie says, getting past the gatekeepers. I sell business strategies, customer experience, no responses to telephone, email, etc. Awesome. So Carrie, we're actually going to take a look at how to connect with the decision makers directly. So when I get to that part, we will talk a little bit about just bypass the gatekeepers. You don't need them, right? Let's just get right in there and let's talk to the right people. And for those of you guys who don't deal in corporate and who don't have gatekeepers, it's still very much the same thing. Where am I here? All right, here we go. Deanna, in the very early stages of creating a community and support for single and co-parenting moms. Oh, and so I really just need to start the process of lead gen and growing a list. Awesome. So, all of the tactics that we're going to talk about today, all of the strategies today, you can apply to any platform. Okay. So even though we're going to talk a little bit about how to do this one-on-one, face-to-face, you can take these things, and this is exactly how I write social media posts. This is exactly how I write marketing strategies and funnels. So if you get this down, you can easily apply it to whatever platform you choose, whether that be Facebook ads, whether that be Google SEO, whether that be networking or speaking live. All of these things are going to, it's a skill set. Right? So when you develop the skill set of prospecting, you're going to be able to take that and apply it to whatever platform you so choose. Chrissy says, figuring out how to ask for the sale and find my best prospects quickly. Awesome. So we're going to go through some language today around how to determine whether or not the person in front of you is a prospect, and also what to do if they're not a prospect and how to still find opportunity inside of that. And Jason says he's a profit mentor and business growth coach, hybrid CFO coach consultant. Issues are making that first move from a cold start online, especially when you know you can help from what people have been written, but not diving in straight away. Yeah, so everything that we do today, I have done this through LinkedIn, Facebook Messenger, and things like that as well. So again, we can apply it to any platform. It doesn't have to just be if you're working one-on-one, face-to-face. And for those of you who are selling, so who in this room sells a, just raise your hand, a high ticket service? So anything $1,500 and above. High ticket? Okay, and who of you guys are selling more of a low ticket? So anything under kind of $1,500 ish? No, other way around. Okay, so some of us have a little bit of both. Not too many of us are selling the low ticket, which is awesome. These things, they will apply to low ticket, but you don't have to go this far in depth when your thing is not that expensive. And low ticket is going to vary niche by niche, and based on sort of where you guys are at. So for some people, low ticket's going to be under $100. For in other industries, it's going to be under 1,500, you know, depending on where you guys are at. So, all right. So how many times have you guys created something and you pushed out a few posts on social media, or you pushed out some emails about it, and then you crawled back into your workspace to create something else? Do I got my creatives on the line here? Oh yeah, Chrissy's like, yeah. Okay, so how many times have you convinced yourself this isn't working about your thing? So you put it out there into the world and you're just like, oh, this isn't working. And really, we know it could have made a pretty positive difference in somebody's life, right? And how many times have we skipped from one marketing strategy to another, waiting to find that perfect passive plan that will bypass the selling process and allow you to continue to hide behind your work? Who loves to hide behind the work, right? Yeah, a lot of us do, because that is our zone of genius. Right? We want to be doing the things that we love. We don't necessarily want to be selling it on sales calls, but the reality of business is that if you're not selling anything, you're not really in business, right? You are creating for a hobby or for an art form or whatever it is that you want to do. So there are a lot of things that make prospecting hard. You guys wrote some of those into the chat. Some of those are even the fear of people judging you or thinking that you're salesy, right? We hear that all the time. Or not knowing where to look when your warm market has run dry. So a lot of you said that in the chat, that you're just not sure where to look for your people. Or the motivation to doing it when creating is just so much more enjoyable, right? Do we really want to be out there and prospecting when we could be creating and we could be serving and we could be doing the things that we loved? But you guys know what's unbeatable? When somebody buys from you and their life is changed, right? Who here has ever gotten an email or a testimonial from a client, and you can almost, when you're reading it, you can almost see the tears streaming down their face in gratitude that you have given them something so beautiful and so amazing? Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? And so there are a lot of reasons you might give yourself not to prospect, but they all boil down to one thing: we're afraid, right? And that's okay. We're either afraid of what the other person might think. We're afraid of, you know, we tell ourselves we don't know how, or we tell ourselves we don't know where these people are hanging out, but we know that they exist, right? And that's okay, because confidence is made through practice. So one thing I'm going to just sort of forecast here for you guys is that confidence in prospecting only comes with practice. It is not inherited. So I'm going to give you all the tools here to build those skills. But you can only feel comfortable with this when you practice it. And what's great about that is that you can control how comfortable you feel with prospecting just simply by practicing what we learn here today. So I want you to schedule practice sessions with each other. You can reach out to each other, with your spouse, with your bestie, with your biz pals, even with your cat if you want to, right? Because the more you do it, the easier it is and the less awkward it's going to be. I promise you that. In the beginning, having conversations with people that you know on the other end you're going to invite them into something, it can feel a little bit weird, but we're going to go through some languaging today that feels really comfortable and really, really good. And I think that when you hear me say it, you're going to feel like, oh, yeah, I can do that. It feels really good. All right, so who here has a pipeline? Anyone have a pipeline? Yes, no, not really sure. Okay. So for those of you who have no clue what the heck a pipeline is, a pipeline is a database that houses which prospects you have in different deal stages. So who here has ever dropped the ball on following up with a client? Anyone? Oh yeah. I have definitely dropped the ball on following up with clients. So somebody who has already been through your pitch and somebody who has already sat through an entire sales conversation with you and has expressed interest at a later time is a really great example of low-hanging fruit, right? So someone who might be low-hanging fruit really is just somebody who might be easier to close than going out and finding someone completely new to you. So who here has ever sent a contract to a client and then had them back out after they had already said yes? Anyone had that happen? Yeah. Carrie says no, she's a lucky one. She's a lucky one. But that, I hear that from people all the time, right? We send a contract to somebody and then they just don't sign it. They kind of ghost on it. They sort of change their mind and we're like, oh, like I really thought that that person was in and now all of a sudden they're out, right? So a pipeline can help you keep in closer contact with people to ensure that they move ahead with their commitment to work with you. So I'm going to screen share here with you guys, and I'm going to walk you through how we set up our pipeline. So let me see if I can get this going. I'm all fancy pants here. I'm going to do this on an iPad. There we go. So let me know if you can see my iPad. Are we good? Yeah. Score. Okay. That's awesome. So I need to move this on my screen a little bit here. All right. So this is the way that we set up our pipeline inside of our business. So first we need to create different buckets, okay? And we just need to label which deal stage that the lead is in. So for us, these buckets are pretty simple, right? We do prospect, and then we do qualified lead, we do booked a call, we do proposal, sent to the contract, and closed. And closed might be yes or a no. Okay, so that's just how we set ours up. All I want you to think about here, this is just really simple. Yours might look a little bit different. So yours might be something like prospect, and then they attended a class, and then they talked it over with their spouse, and then they closed. Okay, or it might be prospect, visitor, lead, customer, promoter. Okay, so I want you just to take a few minutes after this class or right now just to think through the different buckets or stages that your potential clients work with you. So a few of you guys were in the coaching and consulting space. For many of you, that might be that you connected with them online, right? And so that might be your very first prospecting phase. And then it might be that you had a conversation and you qualified them as a potential lead. And then maybe you invited them into a web class or a complimentary consultation or something like that, right? So just take a few minutes and figure out your buckets. Your pipeline is just simply a list of names that are qualified into one single bucket. And this is a linear scale. So people cannot be in more than one bucket at a time. You're either a prospect or you're a qualified lead, but you cannot be both, okay? So the point of the pipeline is not just to enter data. The point of the pipeline is to use the data to move people along the pipeline, right? To kind of do this until they spit out the other side. We want them to spit out the other side as a customer, all right? So we just want to push them down that pipeline. So today we're going to focus in on here. How do we fill this guy? Your job is to build the selling system to move them all the way across to the close, okay? Because if we don't have people in the pipeline, it's not going to get full enough to like squeeze people out the other end, okay? So when your selling system should move them along, spit them out as a customer. And when you have this down, as long as you're filling the pipeline and you're moving more and more prospects every single day, your job is going to become so much easier. You no longer have to worry about funnels and algorithm changes or following the latest guru. All you have to worry about is following these steps today to fill that selling system with leads and making sure that your selling system does the rest to move people down the pipeline. And it doesn't matter how you do that. You could do that through email marketing. You could do that through phone calls. You could do that through social media. You could do that through outreach or having a sales team. So I want to check in with you guys real quick. Does this seem simple enough? Can you all create and identify your pipeline buckets? We good here? All right. So let's move on to how to fill your pipeline with prospects. So there are 3 pieces to the connection puzzle. All right. So we've got the initiation. I like to call this my connection triangle. We've got the inquisition. And then we've got the invitation. All right. Now you might do all of these in one single conversation, or you might do it in pieces depending on how that conversation goes. We're going to talk today in the context of actually having this conversation with somebody one-on-one on the phone or in person. But like I said, you can apply this to any platform. So if you reach out to people who are in Facebook groups with you, or if you run Facebook ads, or you do email marketing, social media, whatever you want, that's the beauty of developing the skill in prospecting, is that it transcends platforms. So let's dive into step number 1, initiation. Okay, so initiation, you have to initiate some sort of connection with somebody before you can go any further, because we don't want to be that guy or gal who walks into a party and starts like shoving business cards in people's faces, right? We don't want to be that guy. Initiation is really, really simple. It's just simply opening a dialogue with a complete stranger to get the conversation flowing. And I don't want you to worry. In fact, I want you to forget the fact that you even sell something at this point in the conversation. So we're not looking for whether or not this person is a qualified lead or not, okay? Or who might be a qualified lead with money or not. I want you to consider everyone a prospect, because even if they're not a fit for themselves, they probably know somebody who is. They probably know somebody who is worth you connecting to, right? So Laura, she sells real estate. Everybody knows somebody who wants to buy a house, either now or in the future, right? Everybody knows somebody who owns a business, right? That many of you others can really relate to. Everybody knows somebody who is a creative who Helen could help, right? So here's some ideas just to initiate the conversation. You can ask them a question, right? Some of these are so simple. You can do it when you meet people in the grocery store. You can do it when you meet people online. I'm going to show you guys some places to find people to initiate these conversations with here in a moment. You can give them a genuine compliment. So something as simple as like, hey, you know, I really love those glasses. Where did you get them? You can stay on top of current events. So right here, we're in election season. You can ask people, you know, what do you think about the election? What do you think about the drama that sort of ensued around that? You can ask them where their favorite place to hang out is. So if you're doing this in the online space, you might say, hey, I'm so happy that we met inside of this group. What other groups do you love to hang out in? I'm just really curious, right? I'd love to hang out in some more as well. You could carry something unusual or wear something unusual. So this really works if you're out there connecting with people in person. Or you can find points of commonality. So a lot of times when I connect with people online, I'll say something like, hey, I just noticed that we have like 100 friends in common. So clearly we must have other things in common too. We should definitely connect. Really, really simple. And I don't think that anyone would be offended if we started a conversation like that, right? Now, you might be thinking, where the heck do I find these people to connect with every day, right? So I just want you to consider that prospects are all around you every single day. They're at the grocery store, they're in line for coffee, they're at the bank, but you can also connect with thousands of people online as well. And you probably already have a couple hundred Facebook friends that you could reach out to this way. And sometimes that might feel awkward, like, hey, we haven't talked since high school. How the heck are you doing? right? Hey, I see that you have 3 kids now. The last time we talked, we were just both in the dating game. So that's weird. How did that all happen? Tell me your story. You can also join groups on social media, right? Or you can connect with Instagram followers. You can join a networking community like the Rising Tide Society. It's a great one for you, Helen, since you work with creatives, and that's for creatives. We like to seek out business owners on LinkedIn. So for those of you in the corporate space, like Carrie and Christy, or for those of you who are connecting into more professional services, so like you, Jason, LinkedIn would be a really, really strong place for you. For you, Laura and Peggy, probably more so in the local community and also inside of Facebook groups. So local Facebook groups and things like that are great places for you to do something similar. So let me just show you guys how we do this on LinkedIn. We are going to try a new share here. Okay. And we're going to do this guy here. Let me know if you can now see my LinkedIn. We're good? Okay. I'm getting like this crazy window asking me to sign in to Zoom. And I hope this doesn't kick me out of Zoom. Okay. So here's how we do it on LinkedIn. It's really, really simple. Probably all of you guys, is there anyone who doesn't have a LinkedIn account or doesn't have any connections on LinkedIn? Just Laura? All right. That's fine. That's fine. She's my sister. She can talk to me after. All right. So all we're going to do here is we're going to go up to this tab here that says My Network. And you can see you've got 234 connections. We're just going to go to See All. And then all we're going to do is we're going to click on this search with filters. So, it's great to go in and see your connections, but you're already connected to those people. So that's a great place to start, is just opening up conversations, because how many of us are connected to a whole bunch of people and we barely know a thing about them, right? I know I'm connected. I've got, 1,800 friends or something on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't know probably most of these people. And I don't know all that many. So LinkedIn's a total mystery to me too, Deanna. I don't do a whole lot on that other than this. It's really, really simple and easy. So I don't have LinkedIn Premium or any of the fancy like paid ones. You can see free upgrade to Premium up here. They're trying to get me on a free trial. This is just the very basic LinkedIn. So we're going to go here where it says first. We're going to drop this down and uncheck first and go to second and third and just apply to that. So these are people who are connected to your connections, okay, in some way. So that's a great place to start, just sort of going through these people and figuring out. But you can see I've got 490,000 people in here. I don't really want to go through 490,000 people. That seems like a lot of work. So we can go up here into all filters and we can start narrowing this down a bit. So I'm in Canada. We also service the United States, so we can kind of click that off amongst some other places, but most of our clients are Canada and the US. We can add in different industries. So if I want to search for people in marketing and advertising, there are many others. These are not the only ones, okay? But that's something that I could tick off. We can, I definitely want people who speak English because I don't do anything, but I really like using this one right here under title. So this is actually a Boolean search. You can use ors, ands, things like that. If you don't know what a Boolean search is, just pop that into Google and it'll show you all of the different functions that you can include. So I can put in here, I want to connect with people. I want to get past those gatekeepers, right? I just want to connect with the people who are in charge and who are making those decisions. So I'm going to put in the different titles of people who might be in charge of making those decisions. And I'm just going to connect with them directly. This is the way to slide into their DMs, right? Just slide right in there and be able to connect with them directly. But we're going to do it in such a way that we're not hitting them with like, hey, I would love to sit down and chat with you about this thing that I offer. Because then you're going to get ignored, right? I mean, I get people all the time. I've got the same call every day for the past 5 days. The same call from this company who wants to teach me how I can make more money with them. And I'm like, I have no clue who you are, and you're just randomly calling me at 6 o'clock at night, and I'm on the do not call list. Please stop calling me, right? And so we don't want to be that person. So we can put in things like, you can see I've done this a million times. For me, it's owner or founder or CEO or CEO with dots in the middle, or lady boss is another one that people use all the time when they're coaches, right? So whatever that is, whatever that looks like, and then we're going to hit apply. So now we just brought it down from 490,000 people to 4,946 people. That's a little bit more manageable for me to go through. I could probably connect with 20, 30, 40 people. And I can go down here, and a lot of them are not going to be perfect, right? But I've got some people in here. I've got CEO and founder of So It Is Written LLC. That sounds like a really great connection for me. Plus, she's right across the river. So that works out really, really well. We have a lot in common. Zara Creative, you can just start to check out their profiles. And this is a great way to just find the people, okay? The other thing that you could do is you could search by company. So for those of you in the corporate space, if there are certain companies that you really want to get into, you can search by company and you can find the names of the people who are the right people to connect with so that we can bypass, again, that gatekeeper. We want the person who you want to talk with to go to their gatekeeper and say, hey, can you book an appointment with this person, right? We don't want to be the other way around where we're dealing with the gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper, their whole job is to make sure that you don't talk to that person. You don't bother that person, right? So for those of you who don't deal with gatekeepers, it's a great way as well just to connect with the smaller business owners and things like that that you do want to connect with. So we talked a little bit about Facebook groups as well. I'm going to show you guys a couple tricks for finding those Facebook groups. So the first point is to find just one. That can sometimes be the hardest. I'm going to go in here to the Rising Tide Society. So for those of you who work with people who are creatives, photographers, wedding bloggers, some coaches, things like that, Rising Tide is a really great place. There's a ton of members in here. But when you're inside of a group, now you got some suggested groups on the side here. So you can start checking out these other groups. So once you find one group that's a good fit, it's really easy to find other groups that are a good fit as well. So for those of you dealing in a local market, right, we can go to, almost every local market has some sort of local moms group or something like that. I don't think I'm a part of any of those. Let me see. Chatham Kent Facebook sale, it's probably not a great one. There's the Chatham Rant and Rave or something like that. I don't know if I'm part of that or not. Let's see. Chatham Rant and Rave is a big site here where I live. Oh, good. I am in there. I just unfollowed it. So down here, then we're going to find some other really great. So Southwestern Ontario Meet and Greet. That sounds like a really great group to join. Right? So once you find one, it's pretty easy to find the others. It's just a matter of going through and really figuring out, like, where is it that my clients might hang out? And I'm willing to bet that most of you are already a part of some group where your clients might be hanging out. Sorry if you guys hear my dog. He's really excited about this. All right. So we all good with that. I'm just going to check back in with you all, see if there are any questions so far. We're feeling okay. We're tracking along. We're good. All pretty simple. Awesome. Alrighty. So step number 2 then in our connection triangle is the inquisition, right? So once we begin a conversation with somebody, now we need to determine if they're a fit or if they know someone who's a fit. And we want to do that pretty quickly, right? We don't want to talk all day. It's nice to connect with people, but we don't want to talk all day about that. So we're going to do that using the 3 R's. So I'm going to slide on back to my iPad here. And let me know. Can we see the iPad now? Good? Okay. Cool. All right. So we're going to do this using the 3 R's. So the 3 R's are this. First, we need to build rapport. Okay. And then we want to build relationship. I'm going to go over how to do this with you guys. And then we're going to determine if they are a right fit. So once you made that initiation, once we've just reached out to them, we've established conversation, now it's time to establish rapport. So rapport is just making small talk. Really super simple. We do it every single day. Ask about something interesting you saw on their social media, right? So what we just did, right, we found a bunch of people on LinkedIn. Maybe they shared a really interesting post. Ask them about it. People love when you engage with their stuff because that gives us that little ego boost of like, oh yeah, someone's paying attention to this thing that I just put out there into the world. That feels really good, right? Ask them about their kid, right? People post about their kids all the time and they love their kids and they want you to say how beautiful their kids are and how smart their kids are and how, all those things. Ask them about something interesting. So if you're connecting with them in person, I've done this before at the grocery store. I'm like, what is that ingredient? I've never seen that before. What do you make with that? Right? I've had somebody else do this to me. I was at the bulk food store buying spices, and this girl, she was trying to eat healthier, and she didn't know how to use any of the spices. She had only used Mrs. Dash before. And I was like, okay, well, you can combine this and this and this and this. And, it was really fun. So once you both settled into the conversation, then we're going to use what I like to call the swiveling spotlight technique to build a relationship with somebody. So I want you to, when you meet somebody, I'm laughing at the dog. We've got a big dog here in like just giving hugs. So when you meet someone, I want you to imagine that there's a giant revolving spotlight that goes back and forth between the two of you. When you're talking, the spotlight's shining on you. And when the other person is speaking, it's shining on him or her. So if you shine it brightly enough on the other person, that person will be blinded to the fact that you've hardly said a word about yourself. Typically, what do we want to do typically when we are meeting somebody and we're really excited to tell them about what we do? We talk a lot about ourselves, right? And like why we're so great. What we want to do is we want to keep that shining away from you as much as possible. Because here's the thing. If they're talking about themselves the majority of the time, the more they talk about themselves, the more interesting they'll find you. So it's really funny. I've done this on airplanes all the time. So last year I traveled a lot. I traveled a lot by myself. And the person sitting next to me, I would just ask them about themselves the entire time. And all of a sudden they think you're the most interesting person in the world and you've barely said a thing, right? Now they're going to be intrigued about what is it that you do. So once you've built enough rapport and relationship, so all we're really looking to do there, again, is just really taking a genuine interest and a genuine curiosity in people. And what's really fun about this is we also make new friends and new connections and all that kind of thing, but you're also going to find a lot of people that you can do business with or who know people who they can introduce you to, who you never would have been able to be introduced to in the past, right? So I've done this at the last conference I was at, I got introduced to people who honestly I never would have spoke to myself because I would have been like, I'm like down here and they're way up here and they have these huge businesses and why would they want to talk to me, right? But by doing this, I could kind of like work my way up and all of a sudden somebody else introduced, this is me as a selling expert. Now I'm positioned really well to have that conversation. So once you've built up enough rapport and relationship, and it doesn't take very long, then we can move on to that last step on determining whether or not they're a right fit, okay? And there are two different ways, or there's two different steps in which we can do this. So step number one is just to ask them, what do they do? And you might already know the answer to this, right? Because you've creeped them online. I totally creep people online before I reach out. You might already know the answer to this, but just ask them, what do you do? Everyone does something. And then continue asking them about what they do. And then eventually they'll go, oh, maybe I should ask Heather what she does. I've been talking a lot about what I do. Maybe I should ask about what she does, right? It's that law of reciprocity. And step number two is to ask them, what are they working on? And now, if you don't deal with other people in business and you deal with people more in their personal lives, right? What are they currently working on in their personal lives? Like, what are their kids working on, right? Those sorts of things. So whatever is sort of related to what you do, right? Then what are they currently working on? What is their family currently doing? So real estate, right? People tend to buy houses in different life stages. So we can ask them, well, what's going on with your family right now? What are you guys up to? What's big? What's changing for you? That sort of thing. So what do they do and what are they doing? I'll say. All right. So if you go into the conversation solely to find out what they can do for you, then you're just kind of a dick, right? We're just going to put that out there. We don't want to go into a conversation just seeing what can this person do for me. This is about connecting with somebody who may become a potential client themselves, but will likely become somebody who will gladly share with others if we build that connection with them. Does that make sense? And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, right? So we reach out to 50 new people a week and we build those relationships. So we build those relationships over about 6 weeks. So at any given time, we're talking to about 300 people inside of our prospecting strategy, and they'll flow kind of in and out. And some people will be like, I don't really like this person, and that's cool. They don't have to like me, right? And other people will be like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. I don't have any need for you, but I know these other people who do, and they become evangelists for our company. And then we've got other people who connect and they're like, oh my gosh, like you're exactly who I need. I'm just not ready to do it right now. That's cool. We'll stay in touch. No big deal. And then we've got other people who are like, I need you right now in my life, and you are just a godsend, and like, thank goodness that you even reached out and messaged me, right? So we just want to really go out there and know, like, we're not just in this for what can they do for us, can they buy from us, but also what can we do for them? Can we actually help them? Maybe they offer something that we need, so it ends up working the other way. No big deal. That's pretty cool too. I've bought some pretty cool things just connecting with people that way. I got into essential oils sort of that way. I thought they were dumb for the longest time. Now I use them every day. Right? And that's just because I happened to connect with a couple people who started teaching me about them, and I found out, they're not just like a weird kind of hippie thing. They're actually something that can be beneficial for me in my everyday life as a normal human being, right? I thought that was really cool. Now I use them every single day. So the last step in our connection triangle is the invitation. So I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar, right? So you're speaking with somebody and they just told you that they're struggling with something, and you're like, ooh, yes, I know I can help them with this. I know I can help them with this, right? So 6-week process is just the one that we use. We just have a little bit of a 6-week process. You can do this all in one conversation. Doesn't have to go out. We do it online. So because chat, it takes a while to go back and forth. We'll drip it out over about 6 weeks. So you're speaking with somebody and they just told you something that they're struggling with, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can help them with this. I'm so excited. You light right up and you get all nervous and excited all at once, and you do one of two things. Either you blurt out everything about your offer right there, and you're like, oh my gosh, I do this thing and it's so amazing. Or you chicken out and you just continue on the conversation, never having let that person know that you could change their life forever. And you're like, they follow me on social media and they probably know what I do. So if they really wanted this, they would ask, right? I think we've all probably been guilty of this at one point or another, one way or the other. And usually we swing one of the two ways. So we're all over, right? We're all over letting our fear distract us from impacting others, right? We've covered that today. We're not going to let our fear of what they might judge or say or anything like that keep us from impacting them. But the other scenario where we just start talking about our offer, and all of a sudden that deeply connected conversation that we were having turns into an awkward sales pitch. And the person's like, whoa, I just feel blasted right now. That just sort of went from, I was feeling really good and I really like this person, to now I'm kind of feeling awkward and I want to escape this conversation. You feel uncomfortable. Your prospect feels even more uncomfortable. And then what do we think of the chances for the sale at that point? We might capture a few, but we probably won't capture a lot. So what do we do, right? If you guys saw your doctor at a party, Would you drop your pants and ask them to look at your strange mole? No, right? We would call their office, we'd book an appointment, right? So if you take away one thing from all the things that we talked about today, I want it to be this. Don't switch context on people involuntarily. So if you are having a conversation with them as a friend or as a connection or as a peer, we do not switch context into a sales conversation, even if they ask about what you do and how much you charge and things like that. Okay? So what do I mean by that? Right? If you're having a get to know you conversation, we're not going to throw them in a sales conversation against their will. Inside of that conversation, you are friends or acquaintances who are building a relationship with one another. In order to change the context of the conversation, we need to change the context of the space in which that conversation is taking place. So to do that, we're going to invite them into a sales appointment. Now, a sales appointment, it can be a big, long, appointment, or it can be a really short conversation. But we just want to make sure that it's not happening right then and right there. So today, again, I'm teaching you guys kind of from the perspective of having a selling conversation. It also works if you're inviting them into a sales funnel. So let's just say this is all done via a social media post, and you're not actually talking to them, but you're maybe running ads behind it. It's the same thing, right? We want to initiate that conversation. We want to get to know about them. If you build out your funnels this way, they're going to be a whole lot more successful, right? And then we're going to invite them into a selling conversation. We're going to change that environment. So we're no longer pushing our products out into the feed. We're inviting them into a conversation. So there are two ways to transition into making the invitation, right? So the very first way that we can do that is to ask them, would you like some help with that? Really easy, right? And then we're going to transition into an invitation script, which I'm going to give you here in just a moment. So they just gave you their problem, and instead of saying, oh, well, I have this thing that I think would be really, really great for you, we're just simply going to go permission-based, and we're going to say, oh, would you like some help with that? That's actually something that I do. Now, in a perfect world, everyone would blurt out their problems in a conversation, and you'd know straight away whether or not they're a perfect match, but usually that's not the case. Some people aren't as open as others. So there's another opportunity that you can invite them into a sales conversation. And that's when we use that law of reciprocity and they ask about what you do. Okay. Yeah. So easy, right, Claudia? Yeah. Would you like some help? So rest assured that if you use that swiveling spotlight technique and you ask about them long enough, so we're keeping that spotlight on them, we're asking about them, we're letting it shine really brightly on them, eventually they'll go, I don't really know that much about this person. I've been talking a lot. And they'll start asking about what you do, right? So this is going to give you the opportunity to ask them, who do you know? So we have two different transitions. We've got, would you like some help with that? Or who do you know that might be a good fit? So here's what that might sound like when they ask what you do, right? So they just asked, well, what is it that you do? And usually I'll say something like, well, actually what I do, it's a little bit difficult to explain. So would you mind if I told you a little bit about what I'm working on right now? And maybe you might know someone who's a good fit for that. How would you feel if you received that, right? You wouldn't be like, oh, this person's trying to sell me something. Like, oh yeah, of course, I would love to help you out. So most of the time they'll reply yes. I don't think I've ever actually had somebody say no. They'll always say yes. So then I'll go into, what I'm currently working on is a coaching program for creative business owners like interior designers and coaches and photographers and web designers, just to name a few. The creative business owners sell a high ticket service, usually over $2,000, but because they focus on their art, they might struggle with getting their work out there into the world and finding people who will pay for what they do. So what I do is I help them learn how to prospect and how to have a non-awkward but high-converting sales conversation, and then how to automate pieces of their selling process so they can focus more on delivering their gift to the world and stress less about finding and booking clients. Do you know anyone who fits the bill for this? Who do you know? Right? So that was my transition there. Who do you know? So now we're not asking like, hey, do you want this thing? And making it awkward. We're just simply asking who do you know? So let's break that down a little bit, right? First, I identified who is my ideal client. Your prospect needs to be able to be really clear on whether or not it's for them, or clearly identify who they might know who fits the bill. A lot of times when I do this, I have people go like, me, that's who I know who's a good fit. How much does it cost, right? And then I'll go into the invitation script, which we'll get into here in just a moment. But they need to be very clearly able to identify as well if they have a friend or somebody else that they can make that introduction to. And then I talked about the struggle that they might be having as a result, and what we would be able to achieve together. So we talked about this, the ideal client, who they are, identified them. We talked about the struggle, and we talked about the results. And then I just asked, who do they know? That's sort of the 4 steps to the who do you know. So I don't ask them if they want to book an appointment. Instead, I'm going to let them self-identify whether or not they're a fit, right? And if I know that they're a fit and they didn't self-identify, but instead they were like, yeah, I know this other person, I'll just simply ask them, great, that's awesome. What do you think makes that person a fit? And when they start rationalizing that for themselves, sometimes they go, oh, wait, that also sounds like me. Okay. The reason that we want to do it this way is because we all have this kind of sales wall that goes up. So whenever you're approached by a salesperson, or think about it when a telemarketer calls you and they interrupt your day, or when you walk into a store and you just want to be browsing the store and the salesperson walks up for you, we just go, just looking, right? Or we say, not interested. We put up that sales wall and we're like, oh, I don't want to be sold to. So we want to let them self-identify whether or not they're a fit so that it's their choice. Because when it's your choice, that sales wall goes down and all of a sudden you have their ear. Does this sound like something you guys can do? Easy enough? Pretty simple? Cool. All right, so we have just one more step, and that is to set up the actual appointment with them. So when somebody says, yes, I'd like some help with that, or me, I'm who I know who would be a good fit, it's time to book an appointment just like you would with your doctor's office. So there are 5 pieces to this that you need to include in order to make a proper invitation. Okay, so I'm going to go back to a screen share here so that we can make some notes. All right. Whoop. Just kidding. There we go. This should work. All right, can we see the iPad? We're good to go. All right, cool. Okay, so the first step is to position the call. Okay, so when we position our call, usually what I want to do is I want to call that session or call that call a cool name that makes it clear what the benefit is that the prospect can expect. So for example, you might say a profit improvement session, right? Or it might be a creative clarity session, or we call ours a client creation session because we help people create clients. So the benefit is very clear on what it is that they're going to get inside of that call. Because here's the thing. We're not going to get into the sales call today. This was all about prospecting. But when we get onto a sales call, that person should benefit whether or not they buy, right? So they should be able to go through that. And, if you do it right, you're going to have a crazy high amount of people who will buy. But they should benefit from that call in and of itself, even if they don't make that purchase. Step number 2 is we want to give them an agenda of what to expect. Nobody likes walking into a call and not knowing what to expect. We get a little bit nervous, we get a little bit anxious, and then people no-show you, right? Because they start to talk themselves out of doing it. They're like, man, this person's just going to sell me something. I feel really weird about that. And then we want to remove the risk. So the risk is that they're going to be sold to. We want them to know that they have choice, right? They have choice in whether or not that they want to make the decision to work together or not. Step number 4 is to ask permission. So I don't love the assumptive close because it doesn't feel good to receive. Okay? An assumptive close is just assuming that they're going to do what you want them to do. I love asking permission, because then the person feels that they have choice. And when they feel that they have choice, they feel that they have power. And when they feel that they have power, they feel that they aren't being pushed into something. And it just feels good for everyone. And then the last step is just to simply schedule it. Pretty easy. Okay, so I'm going to read for you guys what that might sound like. I'm just going to open up my, whoops, I don't want to create breakout rooms. I'm just going to open up this chat box just to make sure that we are good. Yeah, the assumptive close. Yeah. Okay, so here's what this might sound like. So the client might ask, you know, I might like some help, but how much is it? Right? So we're still in that initial conversation, and we know we want to book that appointment. So what I usually say is, well, I'm not even sure that you need help right now. So usually what I do is schedule a complimentary profit improvement session. That was step one. So we positioned the call. All right. So I'm not even sure that you need help right now. I'm not even sure that we're a good fit to work together. So usually what I do is schedule a complimentary session, or usually what I do is schedule a, whatever cool name you want to call your thing, call. During this session, we'll dive into the goals of your business, your current profit challenges, and do a bit of coaching to roadmap out a solution to your profit woes. Okay, so that's step number 2. We're just giving a brief agenda about what they can expect. Now they know what they're going to get on that call. At the end of the call, the plan is yours to keep. And if you still feel like you need more help at the end of the call, we can talk about what it looks like to work together and how that fits into your budget. So that's step number 3. We're removing the risk that they're going to be pressured. Now they know they're going to show up and they're going to get some clarity around something. So even if their clarity just comes from your sales process where you're asking them, you know, what are some of their problems, their roadblocks, their challenges, that does a lot for somebody just to like be able to work through that with you, right? And that's part of the selling process anyways. At the end, we're going to give them some sort of prescription. A lot of times the prescription is something that, well, all of the time, the prescription is something that we can help them with by selling them our offer. Okay. Is that something that you're open to? So we're asking permission, step number 4. And when they say yes, great. So let's just get that into the calendar. How's Tuesday at 11 a.m. or Tuesday at 2 p.m.? Which works better for you? I like to give them a choice of 2 times. It just makes the whole scheduling thing a little bit easier. You can also give them a calendar link if you're doing this online so they can go in and book whatever time is right for them. Especially if you're doing a lot of these and you're talking to a lot of people, you'll probably want to use a calendar link, or I know I've offered the same times to multiple people and it just becomes a mess. So just to read that through with sort of pausing on the stats, right? I'm not even sure if you need the help. So usually what I do is just schedule a complimentary profit improvement session. During that session, what we're going to do is we will dive into the goals of your business. We're going to look at your current profit challenges, and we're going to do a bit of coaching to roadmap out a solution for your profit woes. At the end of the call, the plan is yours to keep. And if you still feel like you need more help at the end of that call, once we know you're a fit, we can talk a little bit about what it looks like to work together and how that fits into your budget. Is that something you're open to? And then when they say yes, we're just gonna give that to them. How does that feel for everyone? Does that feel good to receive that? Cool. Doesn't feel pressured or anything? Okay. Cool. So let's put this all together, right? Today we talked about building a pipeline and identifying the different deal stages so that you can focus on prospecting to fill that pipeline. And then you've got this nice little list where you can go back and you can say, cool, where are all my people who have contracts out to them? I'm going to follow up with them on Fridays. Now we're just creating a bit of a selling system for us so that you can continue moving people through the stages and we don't lose them, right? If you don't already have a selling system, so if you don't have a way of moving people through that pipeline, and if you don't have a really great selling script that converts with a crazy high closing rate, I want you to stick around just a little bit longer because I have a complimentary offer for you that we can help walk you through some of that, all right? Then we talked about the 3 steps to creating a prospecting connection. So the initiation, that is where we were just, using an opening question or a compliment or something like that just to get the conversation going. We had the inquisition, which is where we were using the swiveling spotlight technique to ask about them and to really find out about them and to develop that relationship. And we don't want to just ask about things related to our product or service, right? We just want to explore some genuine interest in who they are as a human. And then we had the invitation, which is where we use our invitation script to get them to book our call and to make sure that we aren't changing the context of a conversation without starting that new conversation. All right, so that's a lot that we covered in one session. I feel like I've been talking forever. So let me just sort of come back to you and ask you, would you guys like to hear a little bit more about how we can work together a bit further, how we can explore your selling systems a bit further? Does that sound good for you? See some heads nodding? Cool. If that's not something that you want to hear about, totally cool. You can, that was pretty much it for our prospecting. I will get to some questions here at the end if you guys have them. But if you want to peace out right now, totally cool. No big deal. All right. So this isn't going to be a sales pitch. It's simply going to be an invitation to another complimentary offer for you. So I don't want you to put up your sales wall or tune out or anything just yet. So before I tell you what I have for you, first let me tell you who this is for. Okay. So we are currently working with I like to call them creative entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, interior designers, photographers, creative people who sell high ticket services. So anything between about $1,500 to $100,000 packages. And because you focus on what you're amazingly talented at, like the coaching or interior design or photography, or maybe even ghostwriting, I've got a ghostwriting client, or web design, maybe you aren't as skilled at getting leads and closing them. So while you are insanely talented and offer so much value in what you do, maybe the world just doesn't know it yet because you're not quite sure on how to sell your services or how to get yourself out there in a way that gets the eyes on your business. So that might mean that you're currently working for less than what you know that you're worth. So maybe you're not charging enough, or it might be that you're hanging onto a corporate job so that even though you want to fully move out of that into doing what you love, or maybe you just don't have a selling system, which means that you haven't been able to duplicate and bring on a team to help you grow, and you feel like you're in this constant, struggle. I call it the cycle of reactivity and panic, or crap for short. It's like, we're going to go out there and we're going to market, and then we're going to get some clients, and then we have to serve them. And because we have no time, we stop marketing because we're so busy keeping up with serving. And then we go, oh crap, I don't have any clients coming up because these contracts are coming to an end. And then we market again. And it's this cycle. All right. So if this sounds like you, I'd like to invite you into a complimentary client creation session. And during that session together, myself or my husband, who is our other client creation specialist, is going to help you to develop a roadmap so that you can get super clear on what your high ticket offer is, that offer that you can charge between $1,500 to $25,000, even up to $100,000 for, who you're offering it to as well. Because if you're trying to sell to everyone, you're going to sell to no one. Okay, and I hear this a lot. People will say, well, my offer is for anybody in this space. But if we do that, we aren't going to be closing to anyone. Jason, I see your question, and I'll definitely get to it in a minute. On this call, we're also going to gain clarity around how to build a selling system that converts the prospects that you push into the pipeline. So we talked today about filling that pipeline with prospects. We're going to talk on that call around how to gain clarity on how to build that selling system to push them so that the pipeline spits them out the other end into a sale. And we're also going to understand how you can add more automation into your selling system so that once it's firing on all cylinders, you can turn up the volume and crank out more sales without more human effort. And at the end of the call, the plan is yours to keep. Okay, so if you still feel like you need more help at the end of the call, then we can talk a little bit more about what it looks like for us to work together and how that fits into your budget. We do have payment plans as low as a couple $100s a month. If that sounds like a fit for you and you want to take advantage of that complimentary session, there's just 3 steps that I need you to take. Okay, so here they are here. We're going to go to step number 1 is to go to heatherposansky.com/high-ticket. Step number 2, it's going to be a little bit of a questionnaire. Just tell us a little bit about you. I don't like to get on a call blind without knowing about you and your business, because then we spend the majority of the time getting to know the little details. And instead, I want to spend that time actually helping and actually creating a plan for you. Okay. And then step number 3 is once you submit the questionnaire, you're going to be taken over to a booking link, and then you can book a time that's convenient for you to talk. So now here's the caveat here. There's just 2 of us taking these calls. There's about 50 people who signed up for this who will be watching either here live or on the replay. So it means spots are definitely limited. I'm not saying that to create any sort of like false urgency, but I only can take calls a couple days of the week. So I only want you to book if you are ready to present your high ticket offer to the world. And if you are ready to create a selling system that converts with love for your prospects. And if you are ready to show up for your clients and to stop hiding behind your computer for fear of being seen. All right. And if that's for you, I want you to snatch up that spot at heatherprusansky.com/high ticket, fill out the questionnaire, book a call with us. Let us help you map out your core offer, your selling system, and your scale paths. And if you felt that today's session was valuable and productive, I promise you that working with us one-on-one inside of that call setting is going to be even more powerful for you, because it's going to be all about you and your business and your clients, who are finally going to be able to see who you are and how you can help them. All right. So with that, I'm going to pull it on back to you guys. And you see Jason has a question here. If anyone else has a question, either raise your hand or type it into the chat there. I'm going to pop back to see all your beautiful faces. So Jason asks, could you run through how you script that initial connection invite to those second and third level connections? Yeah, so on LinkedIn, right? And how we move them on once they connect to the next stage. Okay. So how we do it on LinkedIn, the initial outreach is very similar to what we talked about there today. So I just reach out to them with some sort of commonality, and I'll take a look at their profile. Maybe they posted something interesting, and I might just send them a message. So on LinkedIn, we always do this via the LinkedIn Messenger platform. And what we'll do is we'll just say something like, hey, I really enjoyed X, Y, and Z about the article you shared. Thanks so much for sharing it. It looks like we have a lot in common. I feel like we should connect. Shoot them over a connection request. Okay. Once they come back and they accept that connection request, then I usually just say, hey, thanks so much. I'm excited to connect with you here. And then over the course of a few weeks, we drop them a few articles, we drop them a few things they might be interested in. So we're really keeping that spotlight on them. And we're saying like, hey, I saw this article and I thought that you might love it, right? And it's not something that you wrote, right? Because if it's something we wrote, then it just feels really spammy. So it's something that they actually might be interested in. And usually I'll even add some commentary to that. You know, what I really found interesting about this article was that X, Y, and Z. Let me know what you think. So we're just having a back and forth conversation a little bit. The next message we might send is maybe a resource that you've created that you think might be a good fit for them. So maybe you have a free non-opt-in, video or something like that that you can send. You could be like, hey, I'm putting this out there into the world and wondering what you think, wondering what your thoughts are on it. Right? Ask them for the feedback, because they, again, they're going to feel like, yeah, this person values my opinion. They value that connection. And then I typically will say something like, we've been connecting back and forth here a little bit, and social media is great, but only really if we're being social, right? So I want to get to know you, and would you be open to having a 15-minute chat? That's how we can just get them off that social media platform and onto a quick phone call where we can use that swiveling spotlight technique. And then either the who do you know or would you like some help with that to be able to transition them into a call if appropriate. Does that answer your question? Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Anyone else have any other questions, comments, concerns? Any of this feel hard? No? Pretty straightforward? Awesome. Well, I'm excited. All right. So if that's it, you guys can always shoot me an email. Just hit reply to the emails that you got as reminders. And if you do have some questions and they came up after and you're like, oh shoot, I should have asked that, go right ahead. Oh, Helen, you've got a quick question? Yeah, go ahead. Go I mean, if you've got it, totally go ahead. Or unmute yourself if you'd like to. You don't have to type it if that's hard. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm like
okay,
sitting
good.
here trying to type. Okay. I'm curious with the pipeline, how is it that you, like, I'm sure there's software or there's just straight up Excel spreadsheet or, right, like so many different ways. I'm curious if you use something that's more robust or do you go old school?
So we either use just Excel spreadsheets, usually in Google Sheets, so it's cloud-based, or we use HubSpot Sales, which is free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You can upgrade to the $50 one. It gets you some other features that are all fancy. We're not all that fancy. I believe that, the software doesn't do a whole lot unless you actually use the features.
Yeah.
And, I'd rather myself and my team be out talking to people versus typing notes into a CRM. So HubSpot Sales is a really good one because it's a visual dashboard, and
cool.
I like that one a lot.
Cool. And so then you just make sure it's like built into your time of this is what I do this day or the whatever. You have it built in terms of how much you're on it. Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So every time that I connect with somebody, I try to just do it then so that I don't forget what that conversation is about.
Yeah.
Because like I said, sometimes people will come back to you 18 months down the road and you're like, who the heck is this person?
Yeah.
Like, if you make good notes, you can remember what you talked about. You can be like, oh yeah, you had that dog named Fufu. Like, well, how the heck is Fufu doing? Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So it just is helpful to kind of keep it up. And that's always up on our desktop. My husband is much better at it than I am. I'm not very good at doing minutes and things like that. So, and I always say that to business owners too. Like, honestly, you want to get your selling system down pat. And this is why we create it as a system so that you can outsource it. Yeah. So that you can focus in on the things, on serving your clients and creating and the things that you like to do, right? Yeah. But as business owners, we all have to do it first, and we have to perfect that process before we can give it to someone else. So right now we're in the process of giving that over to my husband, whose top strengths are things like discipline and consistency and relator, right? Yeah. Whereas those are like my bottom strengths. I'm not very good at being consistent. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I really appreciate what this whole thing, everything that you just walked through is so identified where for me, the inconsistency of having the system, like why the system is so necessary, right? Like there's so many things that I've gotten better at in terms of selling and all that, but I still don't have a system, and I can see like, oh, that's the juggernaut right now of God. Like what's going right. Okay, cool. All right. Totally. This is awesome.
Totally. Good. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. Jason, go ahead with your question if you want to unmute yourself, if that's easier.
Yeah. Always easier than trying to type on a tiny keypad.
Yeah.
It goes back to my earlier thing, Heather, where I talked about the thing about diving in from a cold perspective, which is not me at all. So I had there was a post that cropped up in a group this morning, and it was one of those things that you read and you think, I can do that. I know where your problem is. I can sort that out for you. Completely cold. I would go so far as to say I've never even seen this person post in the group before. Fairly random comment, but I know that I have the answer. So I'll ask the question like this. Supposing I'd happened to write into your group today and I was not due to be on this call today, let's say, and I just said, I just wish I could get a prospecting system down, ... What would you have come back to me with? What would your approach have been? Because that's exactly where I felt I was this morning. And I just kind of did I'm just going to step away from it, and I've not done anything about it all day, knowing obviously that we were doing this call this afternoon. But I kind of think those things crop up from time to time. And I know that there is something there that I should be responding to.
Yeah.
But it's having that whole, where do I start, and how, I'll throw the question back to you.
Yeah.
I'd really like a prospecting system. How would you approach me on that?
Yeah. So typically what I do, like in that case, we've already sort of gone through the inquisition. Like we already know that they're a fit. So we're going to dive right into the invitation step. If we do not know the person, typically what I do is I reach out to them via Messenger or something like that with a voice message, because text can be read wrong, right? And so tone is everything when you guys are doing this. Had I said the exact same words with more of like a firm tone, it wouldn't have come off the same way. And so I like to use there's the little like voice memo button on the phone in Messenger just to say, hey, I saw your post in this group, and I really felt your pain around the fact that you want to be prospecting more. What I would really love to do, and usually what I do for people, is invite them into a complimentary client creation session. Inside of that session, we can get really, really clear on what your offer is, who you're going to offer it to, and what your selling system looks like so that you can eventually automate that selling process. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, just let me know and we'll set up a time. And we just go through that invitation script essentially. And I do it just very much like that, where I'm just like, if that's a thing, and if it's something you want to do, that's cool. And if not, that's cool too. Sort of that sort of tone. Right. Yeah, I've done that before. Actually, one of my biggest and best clients, who right now we're in about an $87,000 a year contract, and we have been for the past 3 years, that's exactly how I met her. She posted in a Facebook group, said, I need a coach who coaches coaches. And I was like, no, you don't. First of all, I'm like, you just need somebody to help you out with your lead generation, right? Then I reached out to her. I did a voice memo, and I just said, like, hey, if you want to book this, here's 2 different times that I'm available. Let me know. And the hard part about those threads, right, is that you get hundreds of responses sometimes where everyone's like, I can help, I can help, I can help, I can help, I can help. Check out my website. That's usually the thing. Like, check out my website. Nobody's going to check out your website because they just got 100 of those, and they probably got 30 more in their DMs. So that's the way I like to sort of stand out, is just to say, we're offering them that complimentary call. They can see the value because we're setting the agenda on getting on that call with you. And then we're letting them know if at the call you feel like you need more help and I feel like a good fit, we can talk a little bit more about what it looks like for us to work together. And sometimes at the end of the call, you might be complete and we don't even need to go there. You might have everything you need. Usually that's not the case, but sometimes it is, right?
That's brilliant. That's the voice thing. I mean, I have to say, I hate email for all the reasons that you talked about. It's to get the tone right, and all of those sorts of things that go into that. And it's just the same within a very visual and open world within Facebook comments as well, of course. I love that that concept of using the voice message piece as a much more kind of personal thing.
Yeah, I've even done it, and usually I'll just comment and be like, hey, I shot you a quick message. It might hit your other messages folder. Would really love to connect with you. Right. And again, like, I don't make it about me. I just make it about them and how I can help them, because that's so much more powerful than all of the other people who are going to be like, check out my website, check out my 10 testimonials, check out this, check out that. And you're like, well, right? Like, I just asked for help and now I got vomited on by everyone else in the group. Yeah. So that's probably how I'd approach it. It doesn't always land, but most of the time we end up booking an appointment. So once you get that language and that tone right, it does work pretty well. And I can't say I hang out in a lot of Facebook groups anymore. That's how I got all my first clients, though. For sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. All right, guys. Anything else, or can we release you back to your day, release you back to your prospecting? Everyone's going to go out and prospect now and get some clients. Awesome. So don't forget, if you guys do want to sort of walk through creating that selling system, getting real clarity on everything, you can hop on over to the heatherprestancia.com/high-ticket, fill out the questionnaire, and we can pop on a call together. It'll be either me or my husband, likely me, because he's still working on transitioning everything over here. So with that, I will let everyone go back to your day, give you those last 10 minutes back. And thanks, Stephanie. Yes, Stephanie's in one of our programs, and she's a rock star. She's killing it. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I will talk to you guys all soon, hopefully. All right, take care. Bye, everyone.